In chess, there are three types of blunders that I believe almost every player faces, no matter the level. The first one is obvious kind. Just hang a piece, miss a simple tactic, and even your opponent is surprised. That happens often below 1300. The second one is more subtle. Not a blunder right away, but a move that leads to a mistake a few moves later. This is common for a club level, where stronger opponents know how to punish it. And the third type is deepest. It's about misunderstanding the concepts and structures. And that's exactly how grandmasters punish players who aren't ready. In case you don't know me, I'm Ilya Stanovic from Serbia, and welcome to my channel. Maybe algorithm pushed this video to you, and this is a great sign, because today I'll show you each example of this type of blunders, how they can actually decide the games. For the first type of blunder, I want to show you one of my games that I played last year against some guy 1500. I'm usually not playing the people below that level because during the FIDE tournaments, over the board tournaments, people are already, very classy, and even amateurs are kind of strong. They have a great sense of opening, middle game. They know what to do. They're not blundering immediately. So these blunders are not typical like on the chess.com or only chess. Depends what is your level. Maybe you're 500 watching me now, but this is exactly how people a little bit further blunders, sometimes even like you. So, there is a room for improvement. Don't worry about that. Just let's see how this guy blundered. The point is, I got a center here. My position is very neutral. Doesn't even matter what kind of opening I played. My pieces are talking to each other. While look at his pieces. But to be honest, he's doing a great job. He's striking the center. He understood the assignment that he needs to do something, because in these all French structures, you have to strike back. Otherwise, you're gonna just get cramped, no space, no room for doing anything in the game. And here I did a little bit, sneaky move, very tricky move, h4, preparing some concept that I assume my opponent is not aware of. And if he's aware of, he would play the move h6 here and save the game. But instead of that, he played the move f6, and this is exactly the blunder that I'm talking about. So this kind of blunders you can frequently see on levels around 1500 below. They're not even looking what's happening next. The point why this move is a blunder is because I was preparing the Greek gift. And here when they take, I just go knight g5, go down there with a king, but all this is very desperate. Now I'm threatening the checkmate on h7. He has to do something, but that's the whole point, how actually very strong players are punishing the levels around 1500. So I pushed h5, they went f5, trying to close, but it's very late. Now even getting the material, there's a fork here. I can do whatever I want and even sacrifice the pieces. Then I start collecting everything, and my opponent was simply desperate. I entered this kind of position where game is completely over. For the second type of blunder, I picked the game against the guy around 1800, where actually he played it really well, the middle game. He even followed the theoretical part very well. We got some playable position. I can tell you that I got very nice edge here, as you see. And this is Catalan opening, if you didn't know, where usually white is having space and black is waiting for some sort of break like c5, or e5 or b5. But if white provides great stability, it's really hard for black to provide any of those. And why the second blunder happens? Like, this is practically the relation between, some level 1900 and the guys like 22, 23, international masters, how they're easily punishing amateur players or club players, because they don't have patience. You need patience in these moments. Like, blunders usually happen because people are losing patience during the game and not even caring about the threats and the concepts of the structure. So I'm preparing my rooks for the middle. I'm not preparing for any certain break. I just want to have my rooks here together with my bishops to pointing exactly where the potential opens of the lines could happen. Now he's doing the same. I'm improving my king, getting some space here. My queen is deserving better spot for sure, because here is the bishop. At some point I can push d5. And queen b6 played. I played rook d3, maybe even trying to put another piece here on the line. Why not? Queen c7 back, and now another very useful move for the Catalan. Like Catalan, by the way, Catalan is very complex opening. Please do not play Catalan if you're below 2000. Like this opening you just don't need. I played Catalan in the past myself. To be honest, sometimes I like to play it now. I left it behind me just because I want to increase my tactical awareness even more, start playing more sharpening openings. But Catalan is very strong when it comes to, you know, international master level, grandmaster level. You can always get a very nice game by playing Catalan. But for now, you don't need it. So I got everything that I need. You see that Evil Bar says that I'm +1, but it's not enough. You need to break through. And how you're breaking through against these guys, like people below me, I'm not losing my patience. I'm waiting for them to play something. Like that's actually what grandmasters are doing against me. They're even more patient and waiting me to make mistake. That's also what I'm doing here. So look at my moves. I'm making very small moves like h4, king g2, queen e2, rook e3, rook c3. You see, I'm improving my position. And now my opponent did also a couple of things, but seems like he's ready for something, and he's ready for blunder. So he played c5. And why is this blunder? It's exactly because what I wanted to see. This gives me option to actually open up the e-line. The e-line here. And my opponent is thinking, okay, when he takes, I'll take back with my pawn, he'll take back with his knight, I'll take here, he'll take here, and suddenly black is better. He's pawn up. And of course he's better, like, I don't want this position on the board. But the problem is that club level player and amateurs are missing intermezzo moves, the moves in between. And that's exactly here. When he took, he forgot that I have more valuable capture than capturing the pawn, and that's exactly the knight on f6. I'm gonna firstly eliminate your defender over d5. You have to capture my bishop back, and then I'm gonna take this guy on d5. And look at now this advantage. I blocked your d-line, so I blocked your plan in the middle that things gonna happen on the d-line, while I was building the happening on the e-line, so you're kinda, you know, a lot of moves behind me, since you don't have any single control over the e-line. My bishop is now providing more pressure than your bishop here on my king, so you would like your bishop maybe on this diagonal, but your bishop is not coming to d4 almost never here. So after building everything here, my bishop is here. Now it's time to attack the king. Like everything is perfectly aligned there, you know, I'm gonna just put my pieces here on the king side, as I did in the game, and suddenly somewhere will happen some sacrifice. This is not a blunder, like my opponent didn't blunder bishop takes f7. To be honest, if I'm him, I'm gonna also blunder this, and it's not easy to defend. Simply because a lot of tactics are happening after the certain mistake or something that you completely miss. Like great players and players that have sense of, you know, intuition of this kind of tactics. You know, even Magnus Carlsen would not be able to defend this position against me or any other opponent, you know, around 2300-2400 here, because it's very easy to win. That's why better players are, you know, controlling themselves during the game more than you think. Here actually I just sacrifice another piece just because it's not about any more material, it's about the control of the game and passivity of his pieces, and the game was over. Here is another game where I'm playing a little guy from Russia. He's youngster, he's very talented, like maybe 10 years old, already 2100. Like I didn't have that rating myself in the past, and to be honest, I misplayed opening completely. I thought I can do some stuff, transposing some, you know, Kalashnikov position as I usually like to play, but this is definitely not good position for black, and I want to reach one moment in the game where actually my opponent shows that he's not patient in chess at all. So I was waiting for that. So I was building everything just for the moment where he's gonna blunder something not obvious, because he's very strong, he understands some tricks. He will blunder something that he will not expect is even a blunder, you know, and that actually happened. So we went to some position. You see that white is much better here. If you ask me why is white much better, it's because black is having a lot of holes, you know, such as d5, f5. He has a lot of pawns not connected. There's a lot of problems in his structure. There's a lot of problems generally in stability, and also white is having more space and his king is much safer. I tried something on the king side, but that's not enough, even though I'm trying more, of course, and I'm not resigning this game. And we went to some positions, so things are happening and happening. There's some moments here where I got some chances to improve my position with knight, also to get some check here. But still, white is super fine. There is no threats. This rook and queen are doing amazing job in saving the king. I castle, the position is getting more crazier, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to complicate it more. Even though I'm much worse, according to computer, he's just, you know, little boy, human, that cannot understand some moments in the game. And after bishop h6, I just move my rook on f7, and here actually blunder happens. Queen to e2. So why is this blunder? This move looks completely logical, right? I'm pinning your knight. There is no useful discovery. But he is missing that this pawn is very important to him, to not open up the f line for my rook. What was better move was to just bring the knight back to e3. Then my only move is actually queen to h5. And here I think he can just, you know, play g4. And where I take this guy here, he'll take my guy here. And that's it. You know, we just traded the pieces some weird way. And that's it. He didn't want that for some reason. He was thinking maybe that after capture bishop g5 or something, I'm having some compensation on dark squares, but this is very good stability. He will play rook e1 or queen to somewhere here. King is very safe. Even my king is more open. But he played queen e2. And why is this blunder? I saw that. I was hoping that he will play the move queen e2. I took the pawn on f5 with my queen. So now I'm protecting my knight again, but I'm not anymore pinned. And he was thinking, aha, I'll play rook f1. And now your knight is in trouble. So the only way how to defend this knight is to push the pawn, which I did. And something he thought that the game is over after that move is the move knight c3. But this is another blunder. So this blunder is actually the main blunder. But queen e2 actually started that thing. Because he thought that after knight c3, game is over. He will win the pawn, he will win the knight, he will open up everything, and he's just, you know, mating me. But the problem is, people around 2000 are missing these kind of concepts. That sometimes your piece is not protected, sometimes I can indirectly protect some pawn. So if you take this with your pawn, then you're losing the knight. And now game is over, black is winning, I just won the piece. If you take this guy with a knight, like actually happened in the game, now win your bishop, you see? So practically speaking, the bishop here, the knight here, that's two pieces. They're causing some problems to me, but they're unprotected. So you can't have so many pieces unprotected. There must be something for me. That's why you should always watch out for the problems in the game, and generally for the opponent's threats. Watch out your pieces in complex positions. Take care of them, keep them connected. You're gonna be safe. So yeah, he had to sacrifice the piece here. Otherwise, let's say if he brings the bishop back, I'm gonna just simply take this guy, I think, on c4. Can I take it with rook? Maybe yes. Yeah, of course, why not? And now look at this. I have everything under control. Everything is safe. Everything is, you know, perfect. If he takes here, looks like a nice sacrifice. I can't take with pawn because my rook is hanging. That's not good. If I take with rook, then he's winning this guy here. But I think maybe I can take with queen here. Can I take with queen? Yeah, why not? And after this, we have some interesting position because, you know, rook is completely pinned. I can play maybe rook c3 here, put a pressure here on this guy. Next move is maybe this guy, or maybe I can play it actually immediately. Not immediately because my rook was hanging. So yeah, it's just complex moment where, you know, they can't do anything. That's the problem for them. So yeah, you see, blunder connects blunder, but the main mistake, main blunder is this move. Very relaxed. I remember the game. Like we were, you know, playing. I was very focused on the board in this moment. I was also low on time. He was not low on time, so he even had more time than me. And at this point, I remember he was having some friends around. They were, you know, laughing at the position. He's much better. He has sense of he has knowledge and sense of the game that he was better, and I understand that, but you should not underestimate. You have to be focused for the whole game if you want to win. You can't just, you know, get relaxed, that, you know, stand around and move around over the playing hole and watch other games if the game is not finished. Fourth game that I want to show you is, again, older guy. He's not kid, so he's not scared of me at all. He even showed that during the game, but he made some mistakes at the opening. I got some little advantage, and then I spoiled it. So, mistakes happens, misplayed happens, but consistency is really important. So we played some weird opening. I blunder myself something. Then I enter completely worse position. I allowed him bishop pair, and black is now just, making me not having the castles. And I'm now trying to survive. He's doing a great job trying to open up the lines by pushing f5. I could understand that. I'm keeping the tension in terms of pawn structure. I'm not changing the queens. I'm not changing the pawns here, because if I take this guy, I can just resign, because then the E line gets open and my opponent will just crush me here. So I don't want to take this pawn. What I want actually, I want to trade the queens. I want to simplify, because if I simplify, then my king in the center could be fine. But of course, he doesn't want to change the queens. I kept my queen on the king side. Then some, moves happened. He pushed e5, which surprised me a little bit. I can say this is mistake, not a blunder. Why is this mistake? It's because closing the queen and closing the bishop and not achieving anything with that move. Like, he's just pushing my queen away. Okay, I'm gonna just move my queen again. And the next move that he did is not blunder that it makes him, losing the game. But it's definitely understanding and not being able to figure out what's the best way here, how to open up the position. He played f4. He's still better, you can see from the even bar, but it's going down and down. And in the next few moves, it will be equal completely. Why? Because you can't do these kind of moves if you have a bishop here. Like, how this guy will get open when you see this protected pawn in the middle, supported even by this bishop. I'm not gonna take you, of course. That's the last thing I want to do. Just because when you take back with your pawn, for example, then you're gonna reopen the line, and I believe that you're gonna sacrifice at some point on e4. You're gonna do something about that. So I'm not gonna take you. I'm gonna completely ignore you. I'm gonna just stack my rooks, which I did. And that's actually where the story started happening. I'm gonna stack my rooks. He offered a queen trade. By the way, I could accept the queen trade, but I didn't, since he actually changed the spirit of the position. He closed it. So now bishops are not functionable together. Instead of that, he should open it. Now he played rook f6. I went rook f1. He stepped away with the king. And you see, engine is already saying it's equal. And I understood that during the game. And I felt the pressure on him. By the way, I can tell you that somewhere around this moment, he was very comfortable. Also stood up from the chair, look around, being relaxed. But he didn't understand that he needs to convert this. It's not easy to convert this kind of stuff. You have to be focused. You cannot just, stood up, you are +2 and, just go for the walk, talk with friends or whatsoever. Like, you have to be focused. So when we come to some disposition, now I'm already getting better. Look at this, +1 for me. And I'm sitting on a chair, of course. I don't want to stand up. I don't want to, show any sort of, relaxed moments, because it's still tricky. He can drop my queen. You see that now Barry is going for myself, and I just need a couple of correct calculational lines where I'm gonna get some simplification, where I know that I'm better. And here actually this happened. I allow him to capture some of my pawns. I was not afraid of that. Here we went enter this kind of position. He tried something to, trade the queens here. I offered a queen trade. He accepted because I want to simplify, since the pawn on h7 is very weak. King is very bad in the corner. And look at the bishops, completely out of the game. He tried to trade even more pieces. I played rook h6. He played bishop d7. Now I just regroup my knight. He didn't want to capture it, and now he blunders. Because after capturing this bishop and improving my knight, my attack is also here, but I cannot do anything. I'm actually curious how he will react here, and everyone here will start improving the king by doing king g8. So what he missed here now is the move king d2, which is actually trapping his bishop with the next move c3. The only square is later bishop g1, but I'm gonna just bring my rook to h1, and the game is simply over for him. You have to be focused, and this is more on understanding the structure, like the concepts. So sometimes you will make the blunders, and you cannot really, completely reduce the blunders. You can reduce, but not completely, because blunders always happens, and everyone makes mistakes. And the last concept about blunders is exactly how grandmasters are punishing us players, especially let's say grandmaster against FIDE masters or international masters. So what they're doing actually, they're playing the game. They're testing your opening knowledge. Sometimes you know the theory more than grandmaster. That actually happens nowadays since the engine modern era after COVID. Everything is crazy about that. Like even people below 2000, some people below 2000 knows theory more than me. But that doesn't mean that they know how to play chess better than me or any other player on my level. So after knight bd7, you're entering very normal crossbar structure. We can say this is still some little theory, but all these crossbar structures are playing more on understanding. I don't want to explain it now, it's very complicated. We enter some position with isolated pawn. I can tell you the first and for the start, the only concept you should know about isolated pawn is just if you have isolated pawn, don't trade the pieces. Like I'm not trading the pieces now, but what they did, I offered a trade, which is not a big mistake since I'm having stability over the position, but it's something completely not necessary to do. Changing the pieces in this moment. Then I even trade more here, just because I saw that I can went with my rook here, so I have compensation for this trade. So after this I went rook c2, he took my queen, I took it back, and in this moment, as we know from the endgame concepts, I'm definitely fine here at black, because my rook is active. Then there is another open A line that can provide some trouble for him. Also, I can support my rook on the C line, and my knight will be regrouped somewhere here and here. So at this point here, instead of just continuing and playing the logical moves myself, I started playing something very weird. I start calculating here. Here, calculation you don't need. This is not a puzzle moment. There is no any threats. Pieces are protected. Like the only threat from white is to attack your knight, which you can defend with your king or just move the knight. So there is no threats here. Here is a pure understanding over the endgame. So instead of putting the pressure on the pawn on a2 and maybe getting that pawn myself, I put my rook on c8, which is also fine. He went king f1. So this is a testing move, waiting move, also improving his king. He's planning maybe to play rook e2. And then I play rook d2. This move makes the plan. And if I play that, maybe game is over, because I'm going to have double attack here and here. What he just did, he played rook d1, and I start crying in myself. Because why? I let my opponent trade the rooks. I can't play this rook back, just because now there is bishop h4, and that's the problem. I actually have some problems because of isolated pawn, but this should not happen. Like I spoiled the position in 2 moves, just because I start calculating nonsense. There's no need for calculation. You just need a plan for targeting their weaknesses, because their rook is passive, their rook is passive. And then I trade. So I trade my very active rook for his passive rook on d1, which is nonsense again. Okay, I'm still fine. White is slightly better here in this endgame, I'm still fine. Then I went rook c2, improve my position. He went here. So now there is a tactics. Because if I take this guy here, there is bishop e5. So he's clever. He has better pieces for the endgame. Like his pawns are more natural. He has connected pawns. My pawns are dark squares, double pawns, not good. But I'm still fine just because of activity of my pieces. Knight h5 is the move that you have to find in this position, just because it's provoking him to play the move bishop to e5, which happened. F6, another great move, bishop to d4, and now I play king f7. All of this was fine. Just because he can't take this guy, I'm taking here. If he takes here, I'm taking here. And I'm very glad to simplify everything in this endgame, especially against Grandmaster. I don't mind making a draw, even though white is the one that only pushes here, since he has 4 versus 3, and on the other side there's this pawn on b4 that will be, most probably punished. And I also have some perpetual checks here, so this position is equal. What he did is, of course, Grandmaster thing, rook d3, so he's improving the position. He wanna collect the pawns with rook. And this is actually the moment where I started losing control over the position. I didn't know how to react here. Also, I was under time pressure. So maybe I was having 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So I need to, separate my time, because this endgame will not last 2 minutes from now. Like it will be played more and more. And then there is a blunder. So this is literally no blunder. If you ask me that moment to to make this kind of move on the board, I would make it maybe even again. Why? Because it's a very natural move. I want to improve my knight, and this is the only square where I should improve my knight. To be honest with you, I don't even know what's the move here. I completely forgot. Actually, it's b5. You see, the only move that I need to find here is the move b5. Saving the pawn, and when he plays the move rook b3, to defend this way. It's super passive, but it's actually the only way. And the reason why is this only defense is because I let my opponent did it. Where? A few moves ago. Where I, on the king f1 move, start, not thinking about what he will do. I was thinking only for my moves, and that's how it's pawn. So that's actually what stronger opponents always want from you. To overexpose yourself, to not think about their plans, to provoke you, and once you do something, they're ready for everything. That's actually how I win against you, or some grandmaster win against me, for example. And that's the game. That's the story. That's all you need to know. How it actually ends. I had some chances in the endgame, to be honest, in this rook endgame, but it was again very complex. This endgame is very actually, instructive. In this moment here, everyone would push here the move h4, trying to push this pawn, but this is actually a blunder. Why? Because after check, when the king goes away, they will always have the rook here to control this guy, and you cannot really, promote. On the other side, they're pushing these guys, and, if you know a little about rook endgames, when the pawn crosses the 6, at least one pawn, if he crosses and being protected by other pawn in the 6th rank, that's actually game over, because they will start pushing together and one rook cannot hold them. Instead of h4, for the sense of endgame, I should push g5, because after check my king will be here and I'm not gonna allow my opponent to go rook h7. Even looks okay, I'm not fast enough now, but after b5 I'll push h4. If he goes a7, he can even lose the game, just because now the rook is not being able to come here, So that's the problem for him. He actually needs to react somehow, maybe to try a different way, but I cannot play king d7. And actually, I think here we would repeat the moves if I was ready for that. I was also in the time travel here, so this grandmaster is very strong, to be honest. In the past, he was 2600 plus, so very strong guy. He didn't let me do anything once I made mistake. So from this video, you exactly see what kind of blunders you're having during your games. Maybe you already found something very similar from this example that happened in your games. And if I actually hit that, I'm really, really glad, because I think this is something what people need to know better than, just learning so much openings and changing the stuff in their opening repertoire. Of course, openings are very important nowadays, but I think this is much more crucial than anything else. I would like to call you to subscribe, of course, and like, just because let's reach more people and show them what is actually important in chess and how they should look when it comes to, process of thinking and planning your game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.